everyone. So we will now start building up what is called as point form of Gauss law. Okay, so we have already seen that Gauss law in its integral form, that is integration of d over a closed surface, which equals to total charge enclosed, or in general the charge will be volume charge density. The integral form is one of the Maxwell equation, and this is actually Gauss law, but in four Maxwell equation, this one of the Maxwell equation. So this is one of Maxwell equation. This of course is the Gauss law also, so that we do not forget that this was originally given by Gauss. Okay, so this is integral form. Now, is there any other way of putting the same information in terms of point or a differential volume element in the space? So why is differential volume integral is important, element is important in space, is because the differential form of law actually tells you that the effects are localized. Okay, so if there is a charge distribution that is sitting here, the differential form of law tells you that the only reason nearby the charge distribution get affected, the field that are generated get affected. Of course, that affection or the disturbance keep propagating and eventually reach to the far end. So in some sense, integration is a large area effect. So you are going to take an integral over a entire space. Whatever that is happening, you consider the entire space and find out totally the effect. Whereas if you obtain differential form of law which involves differential equation, then the effect are local. This will of course propagate. Okay, so it is important in another sense that the differential form of law are frequently employed in numerical solution of electromagnetic problem. Therefore, getting to know how to go from integral form to differential form is very important. So we are going to do that one by considering or evaluating left hand side of the Gauss law over a closed box or a closed differential volume element in Cartesian coordinate system, because that is the kind of simplest to evaluate. Okay, so expression for this differential form in the other coordinate system can be obtained very easily if you look at the textbook formula. Okay, so what is that I am going to do now? Let us assume I am working in Cartesian coordinate system, so I want to introduce an important concept called diversion, which we have done earlier also. So the entire point form is a building up towards this diversion. Okay, so if you are curious as to what diversion is, just have a little bit of patience, so you are going to get diversion in few minutes. So I have a Cartesian coordinate system, so I am going to consider a differential volume element. This volume element has an height of delta x, width of delta y, okay, and another dimension delta z. So what is the total differential volume? Total differential volume will be delta x, delta y, delta z. Let us also assume that there is a d field, okay, which is varying with as a function of x, y and z. So d field is varying as a function of x, y and z. Okay, and we are going to consider the variation of d inside the volume in order to evaluate the left hand side. But we will assume that this volume element delta v is very small. Now if you see this rectangular volume element that we have considered, it have 6 surfaces to this volume. Okay, so if you see the cube, you are aware that it will have 6 faces. I'll just redraw it. So there is a front surface over here, there is correspondingly back surface. Front surface is going along, if you will see, it is going along positive x-axis, whereas back surface is pointing normal, it is pointing in minus x. So then there are additional surface, so there is a surface over here, there is a surface over here, bottom, top. So there is surface to the right, left, top and bottom. So we will apply this left side of Gauss law to the front, back surface. The other surface will be very easy to compute. Okay, so we will apply this to the front and back surface. Okay, so this surface first of all is a closed, which means that I can apply left hand side of the Gauss law. Now I am going to assume the position of these front surface. I will just clear the pen once. Okay, so I will just see the position of this front surface. Okay, so I am going to assume the position of these front and back surface as x plus delta x by 2 and x minus delta x by 2, where x is any point in space. So I am actually going to consider center of this point as x, center of this as an x. Okay, so if I call center of P as a P, then the point P defines x, y and z. Okay, and with this point you move delta x by 2 to the front and then move delta x by 2 to the back. Okay, so these two planes will have a width of delta x. So in front surface you have delta y plus delta z. Y is the width, delta z is the height. So differential surface area in the front surface is equals to delta v delta x, and z is the direction. And the surface of back side, in the same way, it is delta y delta z and it is in minus x direction. So the corresponding value of field, D field in front surface, we will assume to be constant, and the value of D field can vary with respect to x and y. So it can also vary with respect to x, y and z, and it can also vary with respect to x. Okay, but we are going to assume that on this surface D is constant and is given by, on the front surface the value of D is constant, and you are only looking at x component. Why I am looking only at x component? Because the front surface of the area which is directed along x. So I have D dot S done over there, because surface area is pointing on in x axis. D dot dx will also be pointing in x direction. Okay, so I mean only component that will be necessary for that front surface will be x component. Okay, so that x component on the front surface is given by x plus delta x by 2. Okay, we'll have dx, and this is going to be constant. For back surface, what will be the value of D? D will be whatever the value of x component of D that is there, that only component that is interested for us. So that x times x minus delta x by 2. What about y and z? Since y and z are constant and constant in the constant delta x plus delta x by 2 and x minus delta x by 2 planes in front and back surface, these two are constant. Okay, so there is no requirement for me to write down y and z. So as far as front and back surface is concerned, y and z are constant, of course d is a function of all three coordinate x, y and z, but in the calculation of front surface dx has been evaluated as x plus delta x by 2, but y and z will be constant. Whatever the value of y and z that is there, you can put them over here. Okay, so now look the integration over front and back surface. So if you integrate front and back and add two integrals, what you are going to get? So this is integral on the front surface, which is equals to dx x plus delta x by 2, and then I am utilizing delta y and delta z, correct? What about back? It is dx x minus delta x by 2, which we are assuming to be constant, and delta y and delta z. Minus sign here, please note that minus sign because the surface area on the back surface is actually pointing in minus x direction. Now you can actually simplify. So this result of these two result of integrals you assume to be dx x plus delta x by 2 minus dx delta x by 2 are constant, and delta y and delta z themselves are small. So if I write down this, I am going to get dx x plus delta x by 2, that is x component of d evaluated at x plus delta x by 2. Okay, and the x component of d evaluated at minus x is given by this. Now if you remember, given by any function f of x, the way we would define the derivative of a function would be df by dx was defined some as limit delta tends to 0 for x plus delta x by 2 minus, this is function, okay, minus f for x minus delta x by 2. So you could of course define f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. Okay, so if you will just remember, it's like limit of h approaches to 0, f x plus h minus f x divided by h. Okay, so fx at x and fx at x plus h, and the distance is h, and h goes to 0. Okay, here there is delta x which is going to be 0, but instead you take 2 points, one is x plus h, and then find the corresponding value of function at these 2 points and then divide by h. The same thing can be done if you take 2 points, del x minus delta x by 2, and another is x plus delta x by 2, and then finding the corresponding value of functions at these values and then divided by the separation. Separation is our delta x. Okay, and let the separation goes to 0. So these are two equivalent to obtain the derivative of function. Just take 2 points which are spaced some value delta x apart, find the corresponding value of function that you are looking at, and then take the difference between the two divided by delta x, and then let delta x go to 0. When you are implementing this on your computer, you can't take delta x go to 0, but you are going to take delta x to be very small non-zero value. then this becomes numerical approximation of the derivative. A numerical approximation of derivative will become very important when we deal with how to numerically solve Laplace equation and other equations that are going to solve. Okay, so remember this definition and compare this to the term that is there in this bracket. Okay, so you can clearly say that it has to be a derivative of x component of d. Now this can't be of ordinary differential. I will just erase the pen one. Okay, so this can't be ordinary differential dx by d. It can't be dx by dx. Okay, it could be function of x, y and z. Therefore its ordinary derivative must be replaced by partial derivative with respect to x. So if you go back to that integration over the front, then the back surface of the rectangular volume element that we have considered, this has partial differentiation of dx with respect to x multiplied by delta x, delta y, delta z. Why delta x, delta y, delta z? Because you can look that this one that we have is only the numerator part. So if you compare this two part, you can divide by delta x. Here it is minus sign also. Okay, so you divide by delta x, so which we are multiplying here, and delta x goes to 0. So we have not left delta x equals to goes to 0, not necessary at this point, but this is anyway going to give you the partial differential. So this is going to give you partial derivative, then it is getting multiplied by differential volume x, y and z. Similarly, the top and bottom surface are going to give you your partial derivative. So because top and bottom surfaces are originated along z axis, this will give you partial derivative of dx with respect to x. The volume element still remain, and the right and left surface are also going to give you a term which has partial derivative of y with respect to volume element. So in fact, this is the result of applying Gauss law. The left hand side of Gauss law applying to the rectangular differential volume element that we have considered, then this will be equals to partial derivative of dx with respect to x, partial derivative of dy with respect to y, partial derivative of dz with respect to z multiplied with volume element. Okay, now what I am going to do is that I am going to bring delta v down to the left hand side. Okay, and then rearrange the equation so that this equation becomes equations come to the left. So I actually have d z by partial derivative of dz by dz, partial derivative of z integrated of d dot ds divided by volume. Okay, now I'm going to assume volume, then I will assume that volume is going to 0. When I do this, what I have obtained on the left hand side, so that I am going to see in next slide once. Okay, so this is there. So what I do this, when I do this, what I have obtained on the left hand side, in fact I have got on right hand side is called as diversion of d. This is my diversion of d, which we have studied earlier, and this represented by delta dot d vector. The left hand side of this is represented by partial derivative. Okay, So what we have now, we have reduced this integral of dot d dot ds. We have actually written that integral of d dot ds divided by delta v, where delta v is going to 0 equals to diversion of d, and we say that this is the expression, or this is the definition of diversion of vector field. So this definition of diversion of vector field, now you can transfer this limit of delta v goes to 0 on delta v on the right hand side, and you get integral dot ds will be equals to, since we have already know that the integral d dot ds is going to be the total charge enclosed by differential volume. So you can replace this d dot ds by the total charge enclosed in that volume element, and then you see that d dot derivative of d is equals to limit of delta v approaching to 0, charge enclosed in that volume divided by delta v. So delta v goes to 0. So it's like charge enclosing the differential volume is defining the charge or the volume charge density. So you can rewrite these two and say that diversion of d is equals to volume charge density. Okay, so this is the expression is equivalent to the expression of integral form of Gauss law. This is differential form, this is integral form, or you can say point form. Okay, so now will this differential form always exist? What are the conditions that this differential form must exist? So we will see an example for doing that. Okay, so the point form of Gauss law, which was given by derivative of d is equals to volume charge density, rho being charge that is enclosed or that is charged, that is represented by particular point. So d is my electric flux density, and this delta dot d express the vector operation of diversion. So let's look at couple of example of this diversion and how to calculate the diversion, and then we will move on into interesting things. So consider, for example, I have a vector field which is flux density d given by some constant time z, indicating the electric field is constant and its direction is z. So it is completely independent of x, y and z position. So if I ask you to evaluate diversion of this particular vector field, how would you proceed? So you would recognize this in Cartesian coordinate system, simply to recognize that one. Okay, then you can use the formula of diversion that we developed in our earlier lectures, which is given by del x dx plus del by del y dy plus del by del z dz. Okay, and then substitute the corresponding component dx, dy and dz. My field is constant, since we have seen here my field is constant, this is my field. Okay, so this we have studied earlier, my field is constant, it's these two components are not there, so it will be 0. Okay, so it is derivative, this is constant, dx is k equals to k and k is constant. So you can take del diversion of d, which is essentially evaluating this particular partial derivative. If you do that one, you are going to see that dz is constant, its derivative will be 0 with respect to z, therefore you get diversion of d is equals to 0. If for example this particular field D field would have represented field because of certain charge distribution. What is the meaning of diversion of D being 0? For that you have to try to sketch how the D field itself would like. Now D is along Z direction. So let's mark X, Y and Z direction on this paper. Okay, and you have Y, X and Z, and at all X, Y and Z the vector field D is directed along Z axis and has a constant value K. So it could be written by giving constant K value, okay, at all the points. So you have at all the points that vector field D is given by a constant value of K and then headed in the direction of Z axis. So as you can clearly see, if I take any volume over here and then evaluate what is the flux line that are coming out on of the surface. The surface is the boundary, this particular volume that I have shown. So there is a D field coming out of the surface which corresponds to particular volume, and then takes or divide the corresponding value by delta V. So this is the closed surface and then delta will goes to 0. You will see that that particular quantity will be 0 simply because the numerator is being 0. This is being 0. There are as much flux line that are entering the surface as those flux line that are leaving the surface. So if you want, you could have tried this one in cylindrical coordinate and you would recognize that the statement is true regardless of you working in Cartesian or coordinate system, right? So you could see that in this surface which I have taken here, the corresponding value of integral d dot ds will equals to 0 because of the top surface you have some flux lines coming out, whereas the bottom surface there is some flux line that is going in. So there is a balance of flux going in and flux coming out, which makes the numerator 0, and then when you take the ratio of this, when this essentially becomes 0. So in another word, the fact that diversion of D is equals to 0 indicates that the corresponding point where you are evaluating the diversion. Okay, so you can imagine very small volume around this particular point and it contains no source. Here the source of D field is charged, there it contains no charge. So at any point where diversion vanishes, it simply means that there is no charge enclosed in the volume. So you can take the small volume and see what there will be. There will be no charge enclosed. Now that is meaning that diversion of D is equals to 0. Okay, let us get a little bit more adventurous and try to evaluate the diversion for a point charge. So we know that for a point charge, D field would be in radial direction, correct? So let us say point charge has a value of Q. So D field will all be in the radial direction, and this value of flux density dr at any particular point r or at any distance r from origin will be given by Q by 4 pi r square, right? It is varying as 1 by r square. Now you imagine that I am going to put a small volume. Let us actually try to put a small sphere at this point, okay? Not at the origin. See, the charge is placed at the origin, but my Gaussian surface that I am placing, which enclose as a volume, which is essentially a sphere, I am going to place this one at some another point. Okay, then you can see that I am not going to drive this one, but you can see that on the surface D field will be perpendicular to the surface, right? So the perpendicular to these 2 points, one over here and one over here, and at these 2 points there is much flux that is going in, in as much flux that is coming out. Okay, of course you do not want to take large sphere, because that would be like this, right? That because D field over here will be different from D field over here, yet you would still know show that if you start shrinking the volume of the sphere by letting the radius goes to 0, the corresponding point, at that point derivation of D will be equals to 0 at any point that is not at origin. So this statement that we have just made, that if your volume do not enclose any charge, then value of diversion will be 0. Now you might ask, what if I do not consider this at any point not from the origin? What happen if I take this sphere, this is at any sphere around the origin? Okay, I will just clear it once. So I will take this sphere at the origin, where I know there is some charge enclosed. Okay, let us call this radius of small sphere as a A. I hope that there will not be too much of confusion here. Okay, so I can obtain del dot D at the origin. So I want to find out diversion of D at origin by placing a sphere of radius A around that origin. Okay, and then letting the radius goes to 0. Okay, and then find out the corresponding formula of diversion of D. There are formula of diversion in spherical as well as cylindrical coordinate system that is typically given in textbook. You can do that. However, let's go back to definition of diversion and see what diversion of D turns up. Okay, so remember the definition. Its definition of diversion at any point was the closed surface integral D, where the surface S encloses a particular volume divided by the volume element itself, and then letting volume element goes to 0. Now I know D field for a point goes to as 1 by r square, and D field decrease as 1 by r square. Therefore the surface at sphere which is at the distance D field decrease as 1 by r square. Okay, therefore the surface of sphere which is at distance A, there is a radius A, and the measured from the origin will be q by 4 pi r square. Okay, this need to be multiplied by surface area of the sphere, because D field will be everywhere perpendicular to the surface. Therefore this integral D dot ds simply becomes multiplying the value of D with surface area of the sphere. So when I do that one, I know that the surface area of the sphere of radius r A is 4 pi a square. Okay, here I am just considering both the distance and equals to r. Okay, so it will get cancelled out and I left with q itself. So it's not a, we are taking it as r. Okay, I hope that these formulas are familiar to you, that volume of sphere and all. Okay, so going back to the volume that is occupied by the sphere of radius r, 4 by 3 pi r cube is the volume. So delta diversion of D will be over the sphere now. See, I am not looking at diversion of D at any point as of now, because I have considered sphere of radius r and I have not yet let r goes to 0. Now to obtain diversion at any point at the origin, I'm going to let volume element goes to 0, which is equivalent to letting r equals to 0. And if I do that, this is equivalent of the same thing. So if I do that one, then the numerator is constant q, and denominator has some 4 pi r cube by 3. So t is here, and r is tending to 0, which happens to be a quantity in the bracket, and then the quantity just shoot up to the infinity. So the conclusion is that diversion of d goes to infinity. Now this is mathematically all right, but physically this is not correct. Okay, the reason why this is happening is because we assume that charge q has no special extension, and essentially that we were trying to do was to give the value r, which is particularly denominator of flux density equals to 0. So if you try to set r equals to 0, the field of a point charge at point charge location itself blow up to infinity, right? So see, in earlier lecture cases, we never went so close to point charge, but now we are trying to find the field at the location of point charge, which simply means that d field essentially goes to infinity, just blow up to the infinity. So this is clearly unphysically result, and to deal with such unphysical result, mathematicians have developed, and physician has extended utilize a tool called delta function. Okay, and delta function is something that shoot up to the infinity at a particular point. Okay, however, the area of function under, if you integrate that one, that would be equals to some finite value. Formally, you define delta function at any point as minus infinity plus infinity delta x dx is equals to 1. Okay, so in practice you can approximate this delta function by considering pulse, okay, of any shape that you want, but their amplitude keep on increasing. So it is keep on increasing. So you can approximate this delta function by considering a sequence of pulses, okay, of any shape that you want, but their amplitude keeps on increasing, okay, and width keeps on decreasing. So the area under the pulse or the curve would always be equals to finite value. So this is called delta function. So in terms of delta function, you can show that the diversion of d field at origin will be given by q by 4 pi r square. If you just leave it like this, obviously this will go, r is equals to 0, and this will goes to infinity, which is the origin where the charge is kept. Therefore you multiply that one by delta function of r, okay, and you will interpret this result as saying that if you integrate d over the volume, fellow will be 0. So that is if you take integral of d delta dot d over the volume, which is equivalent to considering integral of d dot ds over the sphere of radius r, that will not be 0, that will be actually be the amount of charge, okay. So if you integrate diversion of d over a volume, or equivalent integral this d dot ds of point charge with this diversion gives up here. So this is equals to total charge enclosed, which happens to be the point charge q. At any other point, if you try to evaluate diversion, that diversion value will be 0. So please note that diversion is related to corresponding volume or surface that you are choosing. It is possible to choose a different type of surface. However, the evaluation of D field in any arbitrary chosen surface is going to be difficult and not usually recommended. So let us just review back what we said. We started with point form of Gauss law, okay, and we considered two examples for calculating the gradient. In the first example, D was equals to some constant directed along z-axis at every point in space. So if you try doing the diversion at any point, this would be 0, because the volume or the surface would not enclose the volume, actually would not enclose any charge. There is much flow of flux lines into the volume as there is an outflow of the flux. That was the first example. The second example that we consider, we had a point charge placed at the origin whose field decreases 1 by r square. So if you try to consider sphere which is at any other location than origin, then corresponding diversion of D value evaluate at that point will be 0. So at any point not at the charge itself, the diversion will be 0. However, the value of diversion at the point goes up to infinity. We accommodate that infinity by defining a function called delta function. Okay, and let us consider, and we will just wrap up diversion and Gauss law here. So that's all for today's lecture. Thank you.